So as you browse YouTube and you go from video to video, I was watching this video from a channel that I subscribed called Valuetainment, and it's hosted by Patrick David. He's a guy that I follow when it comes to business advice. Really cool guy, really sharp guy. What he had was a video on being a nice guy and how that actually is helping or detrimental in many different walks of life. Now, I would like to talk about how that actually helps you when you are an artist, when you work in games, when you are an animator, right? Because even though that is helpful for different parts of life, games specifically take a long time to develop. And because of that, you have to work with a lot of different people for a very long period of time, and that requires a certain finesse on how you deal with people on the good and the bad days. So this is why I think this Nice Guy Pendulum is very relevant, but there's a lot of things that I disagree with. So let's see how this fits within being an artist, within working in games, next. Alright, how's it going, guys? Welcome to the channel. My name is Harvey Newman. I hope you're doing well. I actually like to share my knowledge for animation, art, gameplay, animation, game development, all of the stuff that I've been doing for the last 20 years. And I like to share a little bit of what happens behind the scenes here in this channel. Now, being a nice guy. Obviously, I think all of us think we are a nice guy in our heads. Doesn't matter if you're a good person, a bad person, a villain, right? We all start with this idea that we are good inside and we want the best for others, right? So I consider myself a nice guy. I hope I come across in these videos as a nice guy. However, being a nice guy doesn't really apply to all the situations that you go through in life. I think most of you watching this probably can relate to a situation or two where you had to be a little bit mean or you had to be a bit more assertive when it comes to a certain situation in order to see the outcome through the best it can be. Now, the pendulum that Patrick David talks about here, the Nice Guy Pendulum, kind of starts on the timid level and then it goes into the pestering level. I'll insert it here so you guys can see a little bit of what the chart is. But in a nutshell, timid, obviously, you don't get a lot done because you live in your head. And then you have confident, people that are actually confident on the outside, but on the inside, they don't really talk, they don't really ask questions. The rationale type of person where you are a nice guy, you are very rational, so therefore you try to make all the questions and answers in your mind to get to certain conclusions, but you don't really speak out or ask questions, and you end up assuming a lot of the time. And then the last three, which is basically assertive, a challenging person, and then a hardcore person. Those three is the ones that I like to actually focus on. Definitely go ahead, watch the video because I think there's a lot of value in that video. But when it comes to being assertive or when it comes to being confident or hardcore in games, it's very much a fine line. Because when it comes to our industry, our artistic industry, when you are an artist, where in the beginning, especially when you just get started, you come in and you think that all your great ideas are going to get done. But as you progress, as you become more professional, you realize that not all your ideas actually fly. And then as more experience comes along, you realize that only a small amount of your ideas get done when you really, really push through and actually sell those ideas in the best way possible. So I went through this whole range that Patrick talks about in this pendulum because it's impossible for you to start in this industry without actually being timid. Because when you actually start and when you see all the people around you, when you see the amount of talent and you being very much somebody that comes from working at home and having a dream and hoping for the best, and you see all these accomplished people around you, there is no way for you not to be timid, right? You just have to, or at least I thought, you just have to just listen, right? And don't actually overpower anybody, don't ask too many questions, don't ruffle too many feathers. You are very lucky to have this job, so just chill, listen, do your job, stay in your corner, do the best you can, all that stuff, right? Now, I kind of wish I snapped out of the timid phase faster because it took a few years for me to get out of that. What I found is that I was going through this range of me from being rational to being challenging was incredibly powerful, and I started to kind of like be more confident. And this kind of starts with your skills, right? You as an artist, you comparing yourself to others, you starting to see that actually, you can maybe work slightly harder than others, or you can actually get a higher level of quality than others, or maybe you can withstand more pressure than others, and you start to see your qualities elevate. But it's impossible for you to actually kind of like start immediately on the challenging rank, because I feel, at least, that given our industry, and this might be just in our industry in terms of gameplay, in terms of game development, but in business, 100% when you start, you need to be challenging all of a sudden, you need to be assertive all of a sudden, because if you're not, then you get actually stomped upon. But in our industry, it's very much an industry where people need to feel good in order to create the most. And there's a lot of egos and there's a lot of feelings within our creative industry. So for you to actually tread carefully, right, I think it's very wise for you to start from the timid section of this pendulum, right, and slowly work your way to be more assertive or ask more questions. I think it's a wise move for you, right? Don't be like me and take years to go from timid to confident, right? That was just one step. But definitely whenever you see yourself kind of feeling good about yourself, then definitely go from confident to challenging as quick as you possibly can. You never want to be on the hardcore level. No one likes people that are hardcore all the time. This doesn't make them very good team members, like team players. This is absolutely an industry that relies on people working together, working as a team in order to make a game. So you need to be very much a team player. But don't actually be on your nutshell. Don't actually assume that people should either know what you think, right? Or that people are going to act in a certain way. I met so many people in this industry that I thought they were going to be very much like, a bit of a douche, or, not really like them. I definitely don't want to work with this guy. And this was me in the beginning, assuming a lot of the stuff and being in my head, fully thinking that I'm not going to like this studio, I'm not going to like these people, or I'm not going to get along with this guy or that guy, just to be shown that if I actually express myself, if I actually talk, ask questions, be assertive, talk about my ideas, even if they don't stick, you can actually kind of like talk them out and let people listen to them. Let the information simmer in, and eventually good stuff comes from that flow of you kind of like constantly asking questions, constantly questioning things, constantly going, wouldn't it be better if you do it this other way? Why are we doing it this way? Explain to me the reasoning behind this. Is it actually boxed in and it cannot be changed? Or can we change it and make it better? Should we be making it better, right? Can we actually ship a game with exactly the same tech, but a different story? Things like that, of that nature, that basically make people think about what you are saying. Something that Patrick mentioned in this video is about the fact that when you are challenging, people think about you, keep you in mind, and actually start questioning certain things. And this is something that I've seen. I believe myself to be assertive, 100%. I got to that level. But when you start becoming an animation director and you start having a bigger saying on a company, then you have to go from assertive to challenging. What happens when you are part of a company, especially on a director level, is that everybody thinks their ideas are better and everybody has experience. So everybody is assertive around you. So that is a given, right? But what is not a given is the fact that not everybody is willing to challenge other people on their ideas. Now, this phrase of challenging people on their ideas might sound a little bit discomforting to a lot of people, might sound a little bit like, I don't want to ruffle feathers. I just want to like be nice and be good and want people to like me. But in all honesty, this becomes essential for you to kind of like stick to people's minds and also be a voice of reason and change, right? A lot of studios, especially big studios, AAA studios, are so set in their ways that it's very difficult for them to change things, because they have a certain workflow, they have a certain pipeline, they have a certain people that are basically normally the game changers, right? The people that actually make a change. Now, if you want to be part of that group, you need to start asking questions that haven't been asked before, so people start thinking in a different way, right? And you can only do that if you actually start to fit in this challenge bracket of this pendulum as you work. Now, what I think is slightly off about this pendulum is that I don't think people actually have to fit within one section and stay in that section. I really think that you have to change where you actually are in this pendulum, depending on the situation, depending on the company, how far along the project is, and what's required of you, right? If you are a director, 100% be that person that actually challenges and all that stuff. But if you are a lead or senior animator, perhaps be assertive, but don't challenge things all of the time, right? Because then you become hardcore. You become this person that people maybe don't want to work with, because then you start questioning everything instead of sometimes actually following through with the idea as a team, right? It becomes more about you than it becomes about the team. Sometimes you have good ideas, you want to challenge certain things, you want to change certain things, but if everybody is in agreement that this thing that the director said is the best thing to do, then we should all do it. Right? So that's the gist of this pendulum, which I thought it was very interesting. It made me think really hard about if this is correct or if this is not, and it's slightly controversial to say the least, but I kind of agree with the whole message here about you actually kind of like asking questions, coming out of your shell, making sure that you feel comfortable in being assertive. Those things sometimes have a bad connotation, but I do think that they have a place for you as you grow as an artist. And if you do achieve this level of being assertive and being challenging and in the right situations with the best attitude possible, I think you're going to actually excel as an artist, because you want to be the individual artist. You want to be the one that stands out from the rest. And only by having these things within you and being comfortable doing these things can you really excel at what you do, right? If you think about it as from a business perspective, if anybody's going to invest in you or invest in you coming as a director or as an animator or whatever, they need to know that they have value for money. And you kind of like asking questions, being assertive, kind of like putting your stamp down and be like, I've arrived, I've done certain things, and it gives them all the confidence possible to know that this guy is the guy that we should have hired. This guy is the guy that has all the answers. And this is where you want to be most of the time, right? But just be very aware of where you are and how you go about it. Because I have met many people, many animators that actually have an attitude that doesn't match the experience, and it becomes weird, right? I mean, if you are just an intern or junior and you start being way too assertive or, way too challenging, and you're just starting in the industry, it becomes a little bit annoying for people that actually have been working together for a while. Having said that, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't ask questions or you shouldn't be assertive in the way you actually portray yourself. So it's not a black and white situation here. It's very much a gray situation, and you have to know yourself with experience, with practice, exactly how to behave depending on the situation. Now, if you have been in a situation like this, or if you are right now in a situation like this, drop a comment down below and let me know about your experiences, some of the ups and downs that you had to go through. And also, if you agree with this topic, definitely give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and I hope this is useful to all of you. That's all I had for you guys this week. I hope this proves useful. And as always, have a great rest of the week. Stay well, stay safe. Peace.